Welcome, everybody, to day 4 of Next Level Career Growth, how to define, design, and step into the work you were made for. And this is where the rubber meets the road. We've done all the work related to figuring out what you want to do, how to create a value proposition, and then get your credentials in front of the right people. And tonight is about sitting in front of the person or persons that you'll be interviewing with, either on Zoom or live, and making sure that you are the person that they decide to make an offer to. And again, this is the most important part of interviewing. It doesn't get the credence it deserves. Everybody talks about, oh, you could have a good resume and this, and that's all important. But this is where everything comes together. So again, like the previous 3 evenings, it's going to be interactive and a dialogue. If you have a question, please raise your hand. I do have a guest coming on tonight, like I did on Tuesday, and he'll talk about his experience interviewing and how he's been able to promote himself not once but twice in the last 2.5 years, and it's really kind of a cool story when he tells it. You'll hear at that time. Okay, so we have gone through again the first 3 evenings tonight. Proven interview tactics, negotiate what you deserve. One of the reasons that you can negotiate what you deserve is because you've done all the work up to this point that says what your true value really is. And okay, we'll get all into that later on this evening. And then tomorrow night will be a wrap up and turning this week into your breakthrough year. So this is the year that you can turn around any circumstance that you may be in right now that you're not all that happy about and turn it into something that you really get passionate about. Okay, so review of day 3, key advocates. Anybody want to volunteer? This was a pretty simple homework exercise. Should have taken you about 5 or 10 minutes. Anybody want to speak to number one, the types of people that they have on their list, and number two, what was coming up for you as you were creating the list? Anybody want to jump in? If you did the homework. If you didn't, that's okay too. But this is part of what any of the clients I'm working with, this is a big part of where we start from to make sure that you're getting in front of the right people. Anybody have the chance to get that list together?
I did. I don't have too many people. There's only 11 people on my list.
Okay.
Most of them I would call friends. There's only maybe two colleagues that I would reach out to.
Okay. And how did you know that friends, I can understand, from a lot of different circumstances. How did the colleagues get on your list and how did other colleagues not get on it?
Um, the colleagues that are on my list are ones that become personal friends.
Hmm.
The ones that didn't make that cut are ones that I don't really think believe enough in my abilities or was trying to climb the corporate ladder and was willing to step on everybody on the way up. So
Oh,
I don't,
really? Okay.
yeah, I don't think they'd be a good asset to bring in.
Or advocate, I think is what you're really saying. Is that
Oh,
correct?
yeah, advocate might be a good way to put it.
Yeah. And that's what you're looking for related to the people who are on your list. Okay. My hunch is that you have a lot more than 11. Okay. Just based on what you've told me you've been doing in various nonprofit groups and with your own business. And you can even use former clients or current clients as part of that list as well, if you've developed a relationship with them that goes beyond just the transaction of your current business. Okay. And I'm going to give you one story about advocates and how important and relevant they can be. This is probably 5, 6 years ago. I used to play basketball at a YMCA in New Jersey. We played 3 times a week at 5:30 in the morning. And one guy named Jeff, we were warming up one morning and he told me that he had gotten a new job. I said, "Oh, how did it come about?" And he said, and this is probably February or around there, sometime in February. And he said, "Well, I've been working in the city for the last 20 years, commuting an hour and a half one way in the insurance business." He worked for a couple different companies. A friend, former colleague, called him and said, "Hey, Jeff, let's get together for a drink." And this was before the Christmas holidays. So they got together and they caught up on their old companies, their families, etc. And then Jeff's friend said this to him. He said, I just interviewed with a company in New Jersey that's about 20 minutes from you, and they made me an offer. but during the interview process, I got a promotion in my current company. I just didn't think it was the right time to move. But the first person I thought of is you. Would you be interested? Jeff said, 20 minutes? You bet. 4 weeks later, he's in the vice president's chair at this company 20 minutes from his home, based on the recommendation of somebody who didn't even work for the company. So that's how strong and powerful a referral and an advocate can be. Just doing this work that I've been doing for the last 12 years, some of my best clients have been referrals, people who have worked with me and then referred me to somebody else, and then that person becomes a client and all of that that goes along with it. So when you're looking about who your advocates could be, think about how your interactions have been with others, and as you're going through your cell phone or your email list or whatever, and then recognize the value you've provided in their lives or in their careers that you may be taking for granted. Okay, because this my friend Jeff, I mean, he was a colleague of the guy who called him for that pre-Christmas out to dinner, have a drink type meeting. You never know where those are going to turn into. And oftentimes, just like people do on their resumes, they sell themselves short in terms of their impact on people in their past lives. Okay, so as you're making this list, think about that, okay, and give yourself credit for the times that you've made a difference from a career standpoint, primarily in other people's lives and what they would say about you if they were to recommend you to be introduced to somebody else. Okay, so I'll leave that as the last note for last night. However, this is an ongoing process because your advocates will continue to to spring up as you go through the process. You say, "Oh, I forgot about this person," and that's okay. And you can reach out to that person at any point you want. So, welcome, Erica. And I'll leave the part about who your advocates are and the difference you've made in their lives and their careers and how they would represent you as an introduction to other people. I'll leave that now in the rearview mirror, and we're going to talk about what the subject matter is for tonight, which is interviewing and negotiating. And it's all about, I call them landing strategies. How do you add value? What's your mantra for interviews? I'm going to go through some key interview questions. I'm going to ask for volunteers. So if you don't volunteer, I'm going to call on you because and I don't mean to be pedantic about this, but it's really important that you get comfortable speaking about yourself and your value in a way that's kind of off the cuff. It's just natural. All right. Following up, there's a slide that I'll show later on that 80% of all business deals happen after the fifth contact. And then what's next? And what's next will be what's going on tomorrow night. So as we go back to my baseball field analogy of career and job search, we've rounded second, we're headed into third, and we're going to be speaking in great detail about interviewing and negotiating. And when I say great detail, I'm going to give good detail about the top line, but there's so much more that goes on with it. I could go on for 2 hours or more just on interviewing, especially when there's practice involved. But again, play along with me here. This is a safe space. And when you do something that may or may not be what you would do in front of somebody else, don't worry about it. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so interview preparation. Who do you know inside and outside the company? Let's say that you've had somebody who's presented you to a hiring manager or to a hiring team, or I should say, and or you've already done the application that's necessary online. And almost every company that I know right at this point won't just take a resume. They want to see some other questions answered before you get in there. Make sure you know who your advocates are inside and outside the organization. I just give you a great example of my friend Jeff, and there are dozens of them that I have, but that's probably the one that sticks out the most. Make sure that your skills match the position that you're looking to interview for. All right. And the first question that somewhere between half and 2/3 of interviews come up with, and this is a really lazy question on the interviewer's part, but it happens all the time, is tell me about yourself. Does anybody want to take a shot at that? Melody, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Um, I am very passionate. I love giving back to my community. My biggest strength is family. Um, I'm 50 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to come back to you. Does any of that put yourself in the other side of the desk? Does any of what you just said become meaningful to the person who's interviewing you?
I would say about the only thing that really would have stood out, depending on the job I was applying for, would be giving back to
Okay.
the community if it was nonprofit that I was going for.
Okay. So tell me about yourself, ironically, has nothing to do with you. It only has to do with the interviewer and what you can do for him or her or that department. So there are two ways that I recommend you answer the tell me about yourself question. The first is a straightforward, I'm a business owner who's very interested in uh, being in a nonprofit organization in a fundraising role. I have this experience, that experience that can demonstrate how much value I can add in those roles. And I like your organization because. That's the straight up tell me about yourself that pretty much you determine beforehand is going to matter to the person who's answering or who's asking the question. I have had great success, and I don't say my clients have had great success with the following, but you have to get really good at delivering this. Okay. Bill, why don't you tell me about yourself? Well, there are a lot of aspects of my background that could be relevant and valuable for this position. Which ones would be the most helpful to discuss to resolve the issues that you're facing right now? Should I say that again? Is that a head nod?
Please.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
And you got to be confident to deliver this because you've answered a question with a question. Okay. But if you do it right, I'll tell you why I'll tell you why it works. There are a lot of aspects of my background that could be valuable and relevant for this position. Which ones would be the most helpful to discuss to resolve the issues that you're facing right now? Okay. Two things happen when you say something like that. Number one, you say you're there to help. You're not there with your hands in the prayer position saying, I need a job, even though you might. You're there to help resolve the issues. That's number one. Number two, and this is the most important of the two, is this. You will force the interviewer to tell you what the key issues are that you're going to be facing if you decide to take that job. You get them, instead of like being sharks swimming around a bait for a half an hour and you get to the crux of what the interview is all about, you get right to it. Somebody will say something like, oh, we have a new product launch in 3 months. We just had somebody go on maternity leave and somebody transfer to another department. I need two people like right now to make this launch happen in 90 days. You're like, oh, okay. I've done product launches before. I've done them quickly, and I know how to work with internal teams to make those happen. So you all of a sudden you take all of your skills and your accomplishments and your contributions from before and you target them toward what the interviewer says that they really need. Because you answered, tell me about yourself with a question. Okay. You got to read the room and realize when it's the right time to say it. There are other times when the overview sentence about what you are in general, and don't go more than 15 or 20 seconds, just a general overview about yourself is also good. But what I just told you can work magically because they know you're serious about being there when you ask a question like that. Okay. Successful interviewing and closing the deal is effectively convincing the hiring manager that you're the right and the only person for the job. We talked about advocates already, and we also want to talk, and I'm going to go through these in the next several minutes. Can you answer the 5 to 7 questions and keep a dialogue going as opposed to acting like you have a 60-watt light bulb over your head and you're under a jury trial? Okay. An interview is supposed to be a dialogue. It is not supposed to be as a situation like what I'm saying. All right. Clear, compelling, and concise answers. This is stuff that I rehearse at great length with anybody that I'm working with. My client friend Alex will be on in probably 15 or 20 minutes, and he'll take you through what his experience was as far as preparing him for interviews that had got him to two levels above where he was laid off a couple years ago. All right. I'm going to use a situation that I hope will be humorous to you. There's a serious part to it as well. On April 25th of 2015, I was working on a consulting project where it was easier to take the train to get to the location than it was to drive. I was at the Newark Penn Station and I was in the men's room. And there was a line like 5 deep. And when I finally got to my proper position in the restroom, this is what I saw. And the urinal had this saves 80% more water than a 1 gallon urinal as their quote unquote benefit point. But it was not properly communicated. The reason for this slide and the next one is to make sure that when you speak about your accomplishments and contributions, you do so in a way that's both accurate, compelling, concise, and clear. All right. So I know I'm throwing this at you, and just the fact that I got this picture was a real note of manual dexterity. I just want to point that out. But you may or may not be chuckling at this, but I had to make this point at some point in a presentation. It's 10 years since I took this picture. So here we are. What is the correct way to communicate the benefit that this subheadline is trying to say?
It uses less water.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking. Uses 88% less water than a traditional urinal. Okay? So I realize this is a trivial, trite, intentionally somewhat humorous example, but when you rehearse your answers to different questions about your contributions and ways you've add value, the more precise you are about it, the better the circumstance and the outcome will be. Okay? Hopefully you don't find yourself taking a picture like this in the future. But anyway, now closing the deal is related to communicating your value across the 5 different areas that we spoke about earlier this week. Number 1, growing revenue or memberships. Number 2, cutting costs or making things more efficient. Number 3, solving big problems. Number 4, preventing big problems. And number 5 is working with or assembling teams to do the first 4. I guarantee every one of you on this call has likely 2 or more. I have 4 out of these 5. I've never done a quote unquote preventing big problem thing, but I've done the other 4. So the goal is to make sure that you can not accommodate, but you can basically transition what you've done into something. Well, I grew revenue based on this. I helped cut costs based on this, because that's where people can get their arms around what are the dollar savings, what are the person hour savings, the efficiencies, what are the problems that you prevented, and what are the things that you've done to lead teams to do all of these other items above it. Okay, so this again will go back to what we spoke about on Tuesday, which is your accomplishments in circumstances, actions, results format. Okay. Here's the crux of tonight. Can you answer these 5 or 6 questions in a clear, compelling, and concise manner? If you can, I have never seen anybody who's answered these questions properly not get to the second phase of the interview process. And these are my favorite 6, 5 particularly, and I'll tell you which ones they are. First one we already went over. Tell me about yourself. What type of position are you looking for and why? And that may already be obvious, okay? Because if you've already applied for a specific position and it has a job description with it, that may already be obvious. If you're at a company where there's several things that are open, you're going to have to be able to answer this question. And the most important part of this question is why? Then the next one is, why are you considering, or why are you leaving your current organization? Would anybody want to answer that question right now? Come on, this is supposed to be participatory.
I'm looking for something more fulfilling.
Okay. And what would fulfilling mean?
Something that I could be happy doing.
Okay. Now what you're doing is you're making it all about you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what you need to make sure is that it's meaningful and valuable for the person on the other side of the table. Okay. In the same way that tell me about yourself is not about you, it's about what you can do for the person across the table. You're leaving your current organization. These are the 3 reasons why I've found, let me say this. These are the 3 answers that are generally acceptable. There may be some add-ons to those, but number one, growth opportunities. Number two is that there's some outside of work situation, like a long commute, or you're traveling 5 days a week, or there's something about the position that is just not working in your life anymore. And the other thing about leaving your current organization is you cannot disparage anybody or anything about it. Okay, you can't do that in the interview process. And the third thing is that you're leaving the organization because you see much more opportunity in an organization where the interviewer is talking to you from, which leads into the next question: why do you want to work for us? Okay, answering that question, why do you want to work for us, knowledgeably, with some real inside information based on your network or based on what you've read in the press or other things that they may be doing for the community or whatever it might be, speak to those things about how you align with them when and why you would want to work for that company specifically, because of their reputation in the industry, because you love their product line, because you're very interested in some of their community advocacy programs, because you have two friends that work there and they can't say anything but good stuff about it, and on and on and on. Okay, so but do your research and have a legitimate, compelling answer for this, as opposed to just saying, well, I think this is a good position and it would really line up with what I like to do. And you can't be wishy-washy or generic about it. You have to be specific. All right. So again, all of these are going to require both some thought, some research, and some rehearsal to deliver them properly. The next one is the most open-ended question of all of them, which is, give me an example of a time when you, go ahead, Michael.
And so, you're talking about research, right? Do you have any, I guess, recommendations on the best way to do research on, right? Because you don't want to spend, 2 days researching a company for an interview that's half a day away.
What the biggest things that I would say from a research the company standpoint are any new initiatives they have, any new product line developments, expansions of operations in certain locations, the community activities, reputation of the company over an extended period of time. You might know what their mission and credo are all about. I wouldn't do more than an hour of research online to answer this question. I would be more interested in having conversations with people who either have worked there and don't any longer, or are working there currently. That'll probably give you more insight in terms of what would be valuable for you and how you could answer the question, why do you want to work for us? Okay. Yeah, 2 days would be way, way too long. You're totally right about that. However, if you have 3 to 5 good responses about why you want to work for them, and they're well thought out and you deliver them properly and sincerely, that's a really good thing. Okay. And all right, welcome, Alex. We'll be with you in a second. And then give me an example of a time when you, all right, and there's a dot, dot, dot here because this is very, very different depending on the circumstances of the interview. And what you're going to find is, and I'll make this up, give me a time when you, and on Melody, I'm just going to use an example. Give me a time when you worked for a nonprofit organization and you helped develop not only their fundraising, but expanded their outreach in terms of donors. I'm totally making it up. But any of the examples, again, could be any of the 5 items that we were talking about just a minute ago. This one happens to be growing revenue or growing quote unquote membership. So, Melody, I'm going to pick on you again. Just, is there a time and you've mentioned the March of Dimes. Is there a time in your volunteer work with them when you expanded the donor base, and what amount of money did you bring into the organization?
Yeah, there was. I don't have the figures on how much money that I brought in, but long story short, everybody was doing things the way it should be, put in this little pretty box. And I thought outside of the box. So I done a different type of March of Dimes walk, which allowed more community involvement with like the Girl Scouts volunteering, the Boy Scouts come in, and instead of an average of say 200 people attending our walk, we ended up with 500 people showing up,
Okay.
donating, supporting.
Okay. Now you're talking. You need to lead with that.
Okay.
Okay. I decided to go about the donor recruiting process in a very different way. And I recruited the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, and instead of having 200 people at one of our walkathons, I was able to recruit 500.
Okay.
Okay. And that's great. That's a perfect example. And the other thing is you don't want to lead with what you don't have. Okay. So lead with what you have. And the exact funding, I'm not sure of because it went on for many years, or you don't have access to the numbers. And I believe you could have access to them, although I don't know that. And this is for everybody. Anytime you have access to numbers, grab them and make sure that you use them to your benefit. Okay, if you grew the donor base by 150%, then arguably you would grow the revenue or the fundraising that came along with it by 150% or somewhere close to it. Not necessarily the exact same number, but somewhere in that direction. So give yourself credit for that as best you can by finding what the real numbers are.
Okay.
Okay, and this goes for everybody. I mean, this could be any cost cutting measures you put into place, any revenue growth, um, anything about a big problem that you solved or a big problem you prevented. I had a client several years ago, and I may have mentioned this the other night, but he saved his pharmaceutical company client $1 billion, that's with a B, in potential FDA fines because their manufacturing practices were so out of whack and they were just going to get fined on a daily basis until they were good. And in 6 months, he got everything back into line. And wasn't just him, but he was part of a team that did this. And again, he saved as much as $1 billion in potential fines that the company would have incurred if he hadn't been there. All right. So I guarantee every one of you can use examples like this. I just don't know what they are. And that's the reason for what we were doing on Tuesday night is to spell those out, circumstances, actions, results, so that you can deliver them in a clear, compelling, and concise way in an interview. Okay? So I'm going to get to the last question on here, which you may never hear, but it's in capital letters for a reason. Why should we hire you? You should go into every interview with 3 to 5, maybe more reasons why somebody should hire you, bullet point reasons. And it's not because I'm loyal, I'm dedicated, I work hard, and all that. Those are nice, but they don't say what specific results that you're going to produce when you come on board in that position. Why should we hire you? Because I've had similar sales territory situations like this, and I've been able to grow it every time. You can see 3 of these on my resume. You can also see that I've expanded the customer base in whatever way that might be. And so give yourself those bullet points, 3 to 7 words max, and then be able to practice them and deliver them. As far as interview rehearsal goes, any client that I'm working with, we do a lot of work on Zoom. The other way to rehearse yourself is use this and record your answers and then look back and see it. You can even say your answers into a mirror. However it works for you that you get comfortable with answering questions like this is going to benefit you greatly. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. Hold on. And then closing the deal, negotiating. The best way to negotiate is from a position of strength. And the way to negotiate from a position of strength is to demonstrate how much value you've added in every circumstance that's relevant to the person that you're speaking with. And I put on here Kirby's story. After my junior year of college, I didn't have a job to come home to that summer. And one of the guys I played baseball with says, "Why don't you come sell Kirby vacuum cleaners with us?" I'm like, "Okay." So it turned out to be a really good experience for the wrong reasons. I didn't know that until the end of the summer. But a Kirby vacuum cleaner was not just a vacuum cleaner, it was all kinds of um, tools, let's call them, rolled into one. So there was the vacuum cleaner, there was a mattress cleaner, there was a blinds cleaner, stairs, rug shampooer, and 5 or 6 other things. I can't remember them all right now. So when you walked into somebody's living room to do a demonstration or to do a rug cleaning, which everybody was able to quote unquote win, there was a little raffle tickets we used to pass out. And if you were to buy all of these tools at your local store, it would cost you $1,675. But you can get this Kirby all-in-one lifetime guarantee for $595. Again, building the value of what it is that you provide. I mentioned the other night about a guy that I worked with several years ago who had manufacturing operations and logistics experience, and the company that he was going to interview with needed all three. He said, look, I will do all three of these roles. I'll hire two people at 100K, pay me 200K. They were going to pay 150K for each of the three, save them 50, and he was able to successfully complete all three of those jobs with two other people. Okay, again, building his value up. Part of the value was the cost savings that came along with him being there and the efficiency of having the streamlined management team report one guy up to the COO instead of three. So again, that's my Kirby vacuum cleaner story. It took me a little while to get used to selling, and once I did, I got pretty good at it. I sold 5 in the last week, and I said, do I go back to college? I did. But either way, it was a very good learning experience in terms of defining what value is and then letting people know that they're getting a great deal, if that's the right way to say it, by purchasing you. I mentioned this earlier, that sales statistics, and this came up in a meeting that I was part of earlier today. If you read down this list, 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. 25% make a second contact and stop. 12% make 3 and stop. Only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. So after the interview is over, following up is as important as the interview itself. And the follow-up process is more than just, hey, it's Melody. How's everything going? What are you doing as it relates to the position that we interviewed about? Okay. It's demonstrating that you can provide value even in a reminder email. You may want to send an industry specific article or something related to the March of Dimes in another state that you happen to find. Hey, this might be a great idea for what we could do here. Anything like that. My rule of thumb is follow up until they say no or stop. And you don't have to be obnoxious about it. Once a week is fine. If they can't figure it out in 3 to 4 weeks, you probably have your answer. Either they can't make a decision or they've decided on somebody else. Either way, by doing the work, you know that you've done what you need to, and everything else will just fall into place. Okay. So with that, I'm going to introduce my client and friend, Alex. And if Alex, if you could come off mute and on video, that would be great.
There it is.
There he is. There he is. Welcome. Thanks for taking the time out of, I know your busy schedule, to be with us here tonight.
Not a problem, Bill. Always welcome to join.
All good. Alex and I started working in 2021 when he was with a large food company in New Jersey. He got laid off in 2023, but because we had all the base work done, he was able to land his next position within 6 weeks. And then he called me back earlier this year and landed another position at a much higher level, just in the last couple of months. It was actually what, May when you got?
Yeah, we're
got that
literally 7 weeks into this one, so
all
it's
good. All good.
it's on a whirlwind. You know how it is, but it's been great.
All good. So Alex also invited me to his 50th birthday party, which had a Kentucky Derby theme last year, which was a wonderful thing. And I'll credit his wife for putting that together, but it was really a lot of fun. And again, he had several promotions in the food industry with this one company. He had 11 different positions. And then what I really want to talk about here tonight, Alex, is the importance of interview preparation, what you and I went through, what your experience was in terms of delivering the kinds of things that we spoke about, and then landing and negotiating the positions that you were able to do.
Yeah, for sure. So, Bill, I'm sorry. First time with this one. Anything I can and cannot say? What's off limits, on limits? So before
I trust your judgment. I think we're
so you
fine.
mentioned companies. Are we allowed to? I don't know.
It's
I'm
up to you
asking.
if it's up to you if you want to mention companies. That's entirely up to you. I didn't, but it's entirely up to you.
No, no problem. You guys can look me up on LinkedIn, no problem. So that's not a problem. So guys, thank you. Thanks. Nice to join you guys. Listen, I'm welcome to any questions you might have. Bill and I started working a couple years ago, and it was very interesting at first. You know, really where it was going to go with Bill and the conversations that we were having. Eventually, it turned into really a little bit more of a in-depth understanding of what I wanted to do. You know, after I had a chance to say what is it, what's important to me, and where am I looking to go next. And we really worked together a lot of hours. I got to say, spent a lot of time together, really spending hours together, understanding, hey, this is where I was doing before. Where are we going next? What's the career path look like? It's never perfect, but I think at the end of the day, what's really valuable to you? And once you realize some of that, once you go to a lot of these interviews, they're very simple because if you have some true values and what you're connecting with, and you know how to express and communicate what you're good at. Everybody has a lot of great strengths and a lot some weaknesses, but if you're able to express those in an interview and you come through with a true, genuine approach and commitment, it's very easy to get people to really buy into you, right? So it's been a lot of the stuff, the growing that I've done with Bill over the past couple of years. You know, I've been in the food industry for almost 30 years. I started off with Mondelez. I was at Mondelez for 20 something years, went to another company for a couple of years. And recently I moved over as a chief supply chain officer for another company, food company, for a company called Dr. Prager's out of here in New Jersey. And it's been great. And it's been an interesting move, the past couple ones, because the first time you move out of being in such a big company for so many years, you leave kind of afraid, very vulnerable, you know, and we spoke a lot with Bill and kind of gave me a lot of confidence. Once that happened, we had been working before prior, and you know, the move after after it really forced me to look for a job after, guys. I'll be honest with you, because prior to that, Bill and I would speak and I would put some effort in, but literally, I think I hadn't worked harder than the time that I looked for that job, the first job after Von Lee's. I was on my computer every single day, first thing in the morning, 8, 10 hours a day, sitting here talking to people, communicating, contacting folks, just, you know, kind of networking and really just understanding what was out there. And then eventually, you know, I landed a great role. I spent about 2 years there. And then literally within the last couple months, another great opportunity opened up, and I had to really, you know, move on, you know, and because the opportunity was there, and you know, you have to strike when the iron's hot, and it really made a lot of sense for me. So here I am today, 7 weeks later, up to my elbows with stuff going on, but it's been a great experience, you know, kind of taking some companies that really need some help and helping them drive their next potential, really learning all the skills that I've developed over my career and now really being able to implement at a different level. So it's been spectacular. It hasn't been easy, but I enjoy it every single day. So so yeah, Bill, sorry.
Yeah, I
Let me
was going
know.
to say
I'm
you're
sorry.
now you're now a chief supply officer, okay, and probably a little over 2 years ago, I don't think that you would have seen this in your future. Is that a fair way to say it?
Completely agree. Yeah, great. Big company experience is great, of course, but you get pigeonholed into a standard career path, which kind of, you know, you'll grow and then okay, here comes your next promotion, and next promotion, and the next promotion. I left Mondelez as a director and literally, you know, moved up through the ranks in different areas. You know, I have a vast experience in all of supply chain, end to end, R&D, plant running operations in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and actually, to one of the people that really valued and made me realize it was Bill. It's like kind of conversations. Alex, you have all this long list of credentials. You really need to sell those, and those help sell you into what you're worth and understanding really what you're worth in the marketplace today.
Yeah, and just from a you talk about the titles and the positions that have come along with it, but there's also some accompanying salary related stuff, which I'll do some quick math here. You're at about, I don't know, 55, 60% higher base than where you were a couple of years ago, and with a upside potential from a bonus standpoint that's significant. I'm round numbers here. I may not be totally accurate, but
I think you're falling short. So
okay.
literally, from when I left Mondelez to where I'm at today, I'm probably almost 3x.
Then there you go. Then there you go. 3x meaning the upside of that, which is terrific. And again, you you had all this inside you and didn't realize it.
Yeah.
And that's one of my roles is to make sure that people see in themselves what other people will eventually see once you're able to communicate it properly.
Yeah, and that's and part of it is once you can go into work and you're in there every single day. Once you take able to take a step back, and it gets hard because we fall into the day-to-day grind, and you're going through the day, and to take a step back and realize and analyze the situation, we don't take the time, right? So when certain things happen in life, okay, getting laid off, you're kind of get a little kick in the ass that you have to do it and take the time to say, hey, where am I? What am I doing with myself, and where am I going, and where's my career path, and what's my true interest? And working with Bill, it kind of I think it really elevated that for me because I was thinking one thing, and then in conversation, Bill would ask me several questions and actually put me to work, with a lot of his exercises, but well worth it because you actually take the time to develop yourself and think about yourself in a very different manner, right? Versus, yeah, we can do a self-assessment and review, but some personal questions about you and your faith and where you're going, what you want, what's important to you in life, and where you're trying to get, and how's your career choice going to influence what your decisions are, right? So,
All good. From that standpoint, any questions that any of you might have for Alex? And Alex is good about answering questions. He's well trained. No, I'm kidding. No, feel free. This is the entire intent was to open this up as a Q&A related to not only the work that Alex and I did, but how I work with any client that decides to sign on with me because I'm attached at the hip until you land.
Well, I can vouch for that. Actually, guys, Bill, actually, when I first met Bill, he actually started working with my wife, to be honest with you guys. He met my wife and started talking to her, and next thing you know, Bill and I kind of connected. After that connection, he helped my wife make some other different career choices, and she's kind of started her own business based on that. She was going down more of a corporate type path, and it really wasn't her fit. And it really was kind of Bill's influence to kind of say, this isn't for you. Find where your passion is, and kind of steered her in the right way and helped me communicating with me to make sure she was able to make those decisions as well. So it was twofold how that came along.
Cool. No, it was great working with both of you. I mean, very, very different circumstances, very different skills, abilities, talents, but both of you have done very, very well since we met back, I think it was in 2021, the fall of 21, that we
Yeah.
met. And then, like you said, started working with your wife first. So, um, Michael, Marsden, John, questions, Melody? Michael, go ahead.
All right. So, okay, Alex, yeah, thanks for the talk. All right. So you mentioned that your salary went up 3x, right? Which is very nice, right? And so was that a negotiation, right, or was that something that the offered you right off the bat?
It was both, right? I mean, some of it is negotiation and understanding where the market's at and understanding where you can push and where you shouldn't, right? It's all about where you are in the career path and what risk you're willing to take in the negotiation as well, right? So you might push too hard and they might not accept it, but it's all part of pushing and taking that risk. To me, and that was part of the conversation with Bill. Where are we at? Do we push? Do we ask for more? How do we negotiate? What kind of communication do we send? And it's not always about just a base salary. There's a bunch of other things that go into it. There's base salary, there's bonuses, there's sign-on bonuses, there's long-term incentives, whatever, car allowances, things that at the end of the day add up to dollars that are going to make you more financially stable. So all those have to come. You have to play. Even health insurance nowadays is a big part. I'll give you guys a great example. moving from my last company to this company, my health insurance dropped by 2/3 what I was spending before. And nobody realizes those types of costs, but finding another company which has better benefits has a big impact on the day what you're taking home to be able to, make your personal choices and grow your wealth. At the end of the day, yes, you're working a career, but the idea is you're looking at the other side is your personal wealth and growth that you want to do outside. So that to me is part of where you need to negotiate appropriately, push where you can, understand where the market's at, and use the tools that are out there. Don't believe everything that's out there in the marketplace. Some of the numbers that you see out there sometimes seem a little bit inflated. What really happens, in my opinion, understanding and working at such levels that you see a lot of salaries, you know where people are at. And at the end of the day, it's all about self-worth. If you're really able to prove yourself and you're able to, show, like Bill's example before, show the value that you're bringing to the company. What value are you bringing that somebody else can't bring? And what makes you worth more than somebody else?
And what makes you the right/only candidate for what it is that the position entails?
Bill's famous line.
That's right.
It is.
Marsden, John, Melody.
Yes, I had a quick question, Alex. If you can share, what was the closing question, and how did you answer?
At the end of the day, it's me around being confident in who you are as a person, skill set. I know what I'm able to deliver. I have a track record of able to do it. I've been able to prove it time and time again. To me, that's my last rank. Why am I the right person? I'm able to deliver and bring you to the next level. The last company I was at, able to turn them around 180% in literally less than 6 months. We went from terrible service numbers to almost 99% month over month. Just being able to say, I have this track record, I've developed this skill set, and you have to be confident, right? You have to be confident in these conversations. If you show weakness, people will see that. You have to be very confident and own what skill sets you really dominate. That's the most important part every time you speak. I said, and if you don't know something, you have to be honest. I understand this, but this is my strength. This is an area I can definitely support in, and being transparent.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And a lot of the confidence comes, obviously there's some mindset, there's some internal work that goes along with creating a situation where you have the right level of confidence, but it also comes from doing the first two parts of job search properly, which is identifying those areas where you've added value, what your contributions were, and how you've turned things around. Like Alex just mentioned, I mean, I remember we had this conversation in his prior position where their service rates were in the mid 80%. In other words, when companies would make an order, the percentage of orders that went out on time, completely filled, was only like 85%. In 6 months, Alex moved that number up to close to 99%. So the difference in terms of customer satisfaction was huge because customers were losing confidence. They couldn't rely on Alex's prior company to deliver the goods that they had said they'd be able to do. So there were a whole lot of things that went along for that. I mean, I'm really top lining it, but when you look at your own background, everyone on this call has similar accomplishments. They may not be the same. I mean, they may not be as robust as what I just described, and they may be in other areas of those 5 different areas of where you can add value, but you have them. And doing the proper preparatory work where you can both describe and deliver those accomplishments and contributions clearly in a compelling way, in a concise way, in an interview, that's what's going to get you the job. That's what's going to get you to the next level. So, any other questions, John, Erica, Melody? I know there are a couple people that are not on the call tonight that would love to speak with you, Alex, but they said they couldn't make it. They'll see the recording. And
I'm available if you want me to speak to them separately. You're more than welcome. My contact info. No problem.
Okay. Okay.
Bill, I just want to say I put something in the chat. I love when Alex was speaking how he used we. you could tell that it was like a team effort, that you were right there by him the whole way through, which is really, really, I think,
So
nice.
I've come from a very long track of servant leadership, right?
Yeah,
To me, it's
that's
about
true.
how do I develop my team. At the end of the day, once you grow in your career, you're responsible to grow your team. My number one responsibility after delivering for the company is making sure I grow my people to grow within the company or with that or moving out. And I will make sure that they will grow the proper skills and give them those opportunities. That's my responsibility as a leader that I will always do. And at the end of the day, servant leadership is, you guys, if you look it up, it's the upside down triangle. What do I need to provide you from skills, support, dollars to make sure you're successful? Right? I'm not up top, I'm the bottom of the triangle. So I practice this every day with my team. I spend hours with them. Literally, it is 9 p.m. right now. I went in with my team at 4 a.m. this morning. Okay. So make sure, because I pushed on them, I went in at 4 a.m. with them. I was at the sites with them. So I'm still here, trying to make sure you guys understand it's commitment to the team. And once you commit to them, they see that. And, it's becoming a leader, and people really, you lead by example. And I will be the first one to do it.
And the bottom line is the 4 a.m. situation was because an urgent circumstance has arisen in his group, and he needed the support of the others on his team, but he was the first guy there at 4 this morning. So on that note, I won't keep you any longer, Alex. Unless there's another question, John, Melody, that you might want to ask Alex, feel free to.
I think every question that I've had, he's already answered.
Okay. Okay, great.
Well,
With that,
guys,
Alex,
no
go ahead.
problem. Guys, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. If you have other questions, look me up on LinkedIn or ask Bill for my contact. I'll be happy to connect with you. Again, it's been a great relationship with Bill. We've actually grown into become friends. One of the things I got to say with Bill, the biggest appreciation I had, it wasn't about the funds in a way, because Bill delivered hours upon hours with me. We would spend hours over the years, and it wasn't about, hey, it's not about, you can go to some firms and some people will say, it's this much I charge out. Bill will say, you know what? My role is to help you make your next move. And he committed to that, and, he stood by me, and I appreciate that. So that's one thing I will, hands down, you guys will definitely appreciate the service working with them.
All good. Alex, thanks. And I'll be in touch with you shortly, and I hope your starting time tomorrow is later than 4.
5 tomorrow. I promise my team. I'll be there at 5. So.
Okay.
So,
all right.
right,
Good luck.
guys.
I hope everything works out. I know it's not an
I
easy
know.
situation. All right.
It's all part of it. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
All right. Take care. Okay. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit from everything that Alex just said, and I'm going to bring up something that I did on, I think it was Tuesday night. When is or was the time where you said enough is enough? And I know there are a few people on the call who answered that question the other night, and I've had several of these moments. I mean, I can't tell you how many, but the biggest ones happened when, number one, when I was in outplacement after I had been laid off from a large corporate position back in 2003. And I was in outplacement, and it was the most cookie cutter circumstance you can possibly imagine. I got bounced between 3 different quote unquote counselors in less than 2 months. And it was a very, very erratic and not very process oriented or result oriented circumstance. So I said, if I ever do work like that, which back in 2003, I wasn't even considering it, I would handle it very, very differently. So that was one enough is enough moment. There was another one when I was with a small corporation, and I had started working on a project that was new to me. And the owner basically stood over my side of my desk and over my left shoulder and started screaming into my ear about what I hadn't done right with the project. And I'd literally just gotten started on it the day before. And I said, why the hell am I working in a situation like this? All right. And there are several other moments that I would call enough is enough. But that was one where I said, I need to be careful about what environments I allow myself to get sucked into. Okay. So obviously you want to get paid for what you do and all that. And it's much more prevalent these days that people are much less tolerant of toxic environments. But many years ago, that was just like, okay, that's the way it is. So those are some of the enough is enough moments for me. I don't know what they are for you individually. I've heard a couple of indications of what they might be through the week, but I would ask you to define what those are and say, okay, is this the time to make the move to go forward? And sometimes it's not so much something negative that happens, but it's something positive that's sitting out there in front of you that you've just ignored for a while, you know, a purpose, a passion that you put off to the side. So whatever it is, and it's always individual in terms of how it shows up, listen to that. Listen to that. So if any of you would like to set up a call with me, this is my Calendly link. You can take a picture of the QR code here. I'll put this in the, I think I can do, well, oops, no, I can't. I can't do it from this. I can put it in the chat here quickly. And there it is. So if you want to copy that or click on that and make an appointment with me over the next day or two. I am available on Saturday, although it won't show up in Calendly. So if you want to reach out to me, I mean, obviously you're all on, you know, my email list and everything else, and let me know what your availability is on Saturday afternoon. I'm happy to do that. We also have tomorrow night as well that we're going to go through a summary of everything that we've covered in the first 4 days, plus a few other bonus mindset related shifts that I've found through the years have been very, very meaningful. So the other thing I want to speak with you about is this. I put this slide up on day one, but working with a career coach is really an investment in your future, much like any college degree or credentials are. If you're making 100K a year and you happen to be on the bench, it's $400 a day lost opportunity cost. If you're 200 grand a year, it's $800 a day. And if you're at a point where you're underpaid by, say, $30,000, $50,000, and Alex was talking about a 3x improvement in his salary over a 2.5 year period, we can do the math. I mean, you can do the math about what it is. The goal is to make it so that with a week or two of what your projected salary would be, we get you back to work a week or two sooner, or you get you into a new position a week or two sooner, and it pays out, and everything is tax deductible. And again, like climbing a mountain with a Sherpa, I have my roadmap, if you will, which is my book, Finding God's True Purpose for Your Career. And I will guide you up the mountain, even though I've never officially climbed a mountain before. I've hiked up a few, but not climbed a real mountain. But what's holding you back? And that's the question I would ask you. Is your desire to get to the next phase of your career greater than what might be holding you back? And the program, and Alex referred to it, but it's until you land, soup to nuts. I am as vested in your success as you are, and effectively we're attached at the hip until you find the position that you're seeking. Now, if you tell me you want to be CEO of Apple, we're going to have to negotiate that. All right. And we're going to have to, let's put it out there as being what is an achievable. It could be a stretch. It doesn't have to be quote unquote realistic. It can be a stretch beyond realistic, because I'm all for that. But we'll be sure if you say CEO of Apple, I'm going to say, you know, that may not be in your cards, at least not now. So everything that we talked about through the week, purpose, direction, destination, value proposition, outreach, and then tonight, interviewing and negotiating, and then 2 follow-up calls to ensure that your onboarding goes properly. I also have an optional leadership mentorship program, which several of my clients have taken advantage of, which involves 2 meetings a week. I'm sorry, 2 meetings a month for 6 months, based on, particularly if you're going into a new position and a new company. That's where your sea legs and your orientation need to be successful, so that you can show that you're going to, you know, have some staying power there. Because I started doing this after I realized there were people calling me back after 6 or 8 months saying that they had to be looking for another job again. And I said, well, we can avoid that. We can head that off at the pass. So from a pricing standpoint, from a cost standpoint, or an investment standpoint, it goes like this. It's a sliding scale, and it's very intentionally. Because if I were to provide the same service for a college grad as I did for C-level executive, and then charge the same for it, The college grad probably couldn't afford it, and the C-level executive would say, you're really not worth that much. So the scale goes like this: 1,500 for a college grad, up to 9,800 for a C-level executive. For those of you who are on this call tonight, that scale goes from 1,200 recent college grad to 7,500. We'd have to talk individually about where you fall into this, but I promise you it'll be fair. All right. And if there are payment plans that you need to do, that's totally fine. If you make make the installments all up front, that's fine. It doesn't change the pace and the speed at which we will work together. The first 2 to 3 weeks are very intense because we're going to make sure we get your resume and your LinkedIn profile done as quickly as possible so that you have the tools to go through job search in the most effective and efficient way. All right. So, some concerns about working with a career development coach: cost versus value, effectiveness and credibility. I hope that the two people who have been on the calls this week have allayed any fears that you may have had about how I can support you. And are you ready for it? And some people aren't. Some people want to be, but they're really not. Fear of judgment, that, people say, well, you can find a job on your own. Well, yeah, you can. All of you have up to this point. My goal is to find you the job that you're really meant for at the level you're meant for, as opposed to satisfying, I should say, at a level that's below what your real worth is. There's some loss of control. It's not really, okay? It's actually gaining control of what it is that you can manifest in your careers and in your pocketbooks by working with me. Are the expectations unclear? I laid it out as clearly as I possibly can, both from the destination and the final standpoint and from every step along the way. And any embarrassment or stigma, my response to that is, you're the only one in your life responsible for paying your own bills. Okay, so any quote unquote embarrassment that might come along for the ride is not really for you to worry about. You're the one that has to design and define your career and how you move forward. There are several ways that we can work this out. Some people like to send me checks or a Venmo or Zelle. Either way, I also have a Stripe account for credit cards. I tried not to use that because of the processing fee, which would be added on top of that, the 3%. And I'm open to Bitcoin if some of you decide that's how you want to cover it. Just I'm kind of tongue in cheek there, but that's really it. Any questions about what comes along with the package? And if you want to set up an offline call with me either tomorrow afternoon or Saturday, we can certainly do that. Questions, thoughts? Okay, I'll leave it at that. If we're not connected yet on Facebook or LinkedIn, feel free to send me an invite and we can do that. This is the background photo on both of those profiles. And again, here's your homework for day 4. Answer these interview questions. Take a screenshot of this. It's also in the Google Doc that's attached to the email the Google invites. It's in the Google Doc that's inside there. This is probably the most important quote unquote homework that we've had all week, because when you can answer these questions in a clear, compelling, and concise way, you're going to win. You may not win every interview, but you're going to win. Your percentage is going to go way, way up. Okay? Thoughts, questions, reactions to this?
The opening, tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Can you, can we,
Are you asking me to repeat what I said at the first part of the call? Oh, that's no problem.
yes, it was very powerful. I just need to wrap my head about around it.
And just for the record, I rehearse it with everybody. I mean, I can say it very, off the tip of my tongue. It's no big deal because I've rehearsed it a bunch of times. But it goes like this. There are many aspects of my background that could be valuable for this position. Which ones would be the most important to discuss and the most helpful to discuss to resolve the issues that you're facing right now? Let me do that again because I had a little farble in the middle there. There are many aspects of my background that could be valuable and relevant for this position. Which ones would be the most helpful to discuss that will resolve the issues you're facing right now? You will absolutely catch an interviewer off guard if you do that, but it's to your benefit that you do. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, no problem. Again, we went through all the details on show examples of how you added value, why should we hire you, and it's not all your good looks either, by the way, just for the record. Oh, that doesn't hurt. I'm just saying. All right. Okay. Any thoughts, questions, insights, reactions?
Oh, I think this is it's amazing. The steps are they're simple, easy to follow. Um, yeah, I think this is really great.
All right, great. Okay. That's the intent, to give you as much information as you can to
Yeah,
make your
yeah,
journey as quick and efficient and effective as possible.
yeah. So yeah, I found the tell me about yourself. I guess your approach valuable because, like I said, it's not about what about yourself, right? It's more
That's right.
about what can you do for them,
That's right.
right? So yeah, I like that process.
Exactly. And when you do that, when you're genuine and sincere with that response, you immediately create a circumstance by which the interviewer will not only begin to trust you, but will start to say, okay, this guy's going to put in or woman is going to put in a full day's work and help my situation out, as opposed to he or she's going to come here and collect a paycheck. Okay. When you put it out there as like you want to help resolve their issues, that goes a long, long way. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, or other things that we're going to, if not, I'll wrap us up and see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. I know it's a Friday, but I promise it'll be worth your while. If you decide you want to have an adult beverage along with me, I won't have one right then, but if you decide you want to do that, I totally understand. And tomorrow is going to be not tomorrow's going to be fun. Okay, tomorrow's going to be some fun dialogue related to how to overcome some of the mindset issues that often accompany a job or career search. Okay, so with that, I will take us off share, and Erica, if you could stay on for just a minute, and the rest of you, thanks for attending. This is all being recorded. I'm going to turn the recording off and stop recording.